What's up YouTube? My name is Caden and you're watching Gas It Garage. I decided to do a bonus video today on this little project I'm doing on our camper trailer right here. So basically what we're going to be doing in this video is we're going to be scooting this tire over so I can weld on a hitch receiver to this bumper so we can put on this bike rack right here to hold our bikes on the back of the trailer when we go camping. So I've already removed both of the sewer hoses, aka the stinky slinkies, out of the bumper back here so they don't melt when I weld to it. So the next thing is basically just to cut a little bit of a notch in the back of this bumper here, and we're going to weld on the hitch receiver that I have right here so we can put the bike rack on. So enjoy the video. Alright, so the first step is going to be removing the spare tire rack right here and sliding it over to the side so we can get the trailer hitch or bike rack hitch a little bit more in the center. I'm going to get a jack stand to put under this to take the weight off of it. We don't need to take this completely off. We just need to loosen the nuts on these U-bolts enough just to be able to slide it over. I also have to make sure it's not in the way of the taillight. I think that should be good. All right, cool. Now we can start grinding off the paint on the spot on the bumper where we're going to weld in the receiver hitch. All right, let's start grinding down the area where we're going to weld this in, because I have to grind off all the paint in order to get the welds to stick properly, and I'm actually going to cut about 1/8 of an inch recess into the underneath side of this bumper to be able to get a much stronger weld when I go to attach this thing under here. And I'm also going to weld it on the back side to the steel frame of the camper right here. So let's go ahead and get to cutting this thing. Alright, looks like I need to grind out just a little bit more. That's why you always cut in just a tad bit skinnier than you need, because you can always cut more off, but it's really hard to put it back on. Alright, now that we have the notch cut and the little spot back here on the frame ground down to weld, we just need to grind the paint off of this so we can weld to it. So another thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to take a piece of steel like this, probably thicker, and cut a triangle out of it and make a gusset that's going to go right here. So I need to grind that spot down. Then after that, we can start mocking this thing up and start welding. All right, so I just got the welder out. I am just gonna tack this on because it's kind of getting dark out and not very good conditions for filming. So I'm gonna tack it on right now and then we will finish it up in the morning. Make sure nothing's on fire. This is tacked on pretty solid. I will finish welding this thing up in the morning. All right, it's the next day, so let's go ahead and get the welder hooked back up to this thing and finish all of these welds on here. Getting back here is going to be interesting. Yeah, I could barely see that one, so that is kind of a booger weld, but yeah, definitely a booger weld. All right, I think I've got this thing welded all the way around. So now let's go in and cut the gusset that's gonna go right here. I ground it a little bit bigger on the paint right here than I probably should have, because the gusset doesn't really need to be that large, but I can just paint over it anyway. This is black. So let's go get that cut and then we will weld that on. And then I'm gonna clean up all these welds with a wire brush. And then once everything cools down, I'll throw some black paint on it and then we can see how well the bike rack fits. All right, so I chose this piece of scrap. I'm basically just gonna cut it right here, and I'll also cut off this ridge that was on here. So all right, I would call that pretty good. Let's go weld it on. All right, so I actually had to trim it down a little bit because it was a little bit too long to fit on there. So I had to trim the back off and I had to cut this little corner off right there to fit over the existing weld. I'm actually gonna go get a wire brush and clean up this weld right here because it's gonna be really hard to clean in the corners of that right there when it's welded on. So let me do that real quick before I weld this. All right, now we can weld it. All right, I'm gonna grab a pair of safety glasses and clean this thing up with the wire wheel right here. And then after that, I'll let it cool down and then we can paint this thing up and put the bike rack on. Yeah, not really sure how I'm gonna get in the corners there, but I think it'll probably be good enough if I just throw enough paint on it. All right, I'm gonna let this cool down a little bit from welding it, and then I will throw some paint on it. All right, it's cool to the touch now, so we can now paint this thing up. I'm gonna do this so we don't get black overspray on the white. All right, I think that looks pretty good. So I'm gonna let that dry and then we'll put the bike rack on. All right, so this paint is now dry to the touch. So let's go ahead and get this thing put in. We're actually packing up to go on a camping trip tomorrow, so My dad's running around packing stuff up in the trailer. I'd call that pretty strong. Not the tightest thing, but I think it's pretty strong. And also, this actually reinforced the bumper a little bit because I welded it to the frame right there, so it's an extra support in the middle of that bumper. So I guess the last step is to put the stinky slinkies back in. All right. Well, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment as always. I know it's not my usual content, but it was just one of these projects. I was just like, I'm doing it, and it involves welding and a little bit of fabrication, so I may as well film it and throw it on the channel as a bonus video. So I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.